Catching shiny Pokemon is hard enough, but what if you had to beat an entire game only using shiny Pokemon? No non-shinies, no second chances, and with autosaves always on, if it failed to catch one, it would be gone forever. Legends Arceus doesn't mess around. Shinies are rare, and failing to secure one is sometimes easier than catching it. And as I'd soon find out, this challenge has some brutal surprises waiting for me. Shiny! Are you kidding? Not exactly the start I was hoping for. I knew this wasn't going to be easy, and honestly, that's part of why I love this game so much. Legends Arceus is one of my favorites, which made this challenge feel even more exciting. But could I really complete this whole story with a team made entirely of shiny Pokemon? Well, there was only one way to find out. So this is my journey through Pokémon Legends Arceus, using only shiny Pokemon. Now, every journey had to start somewhere, and mine began falling from the sky. After meeting Professor Lavington, becoming the latest Galaxy team recruit, and picking up my shiny locked starter, I pushed through the early tasks and set out into the Obsidian Fieldlands. As per the rules, I couldn't progress the story until I caught my first shiny Pokemon, so for now, everything was on foot, and it definitely felt slow. But just over an hour in, while gathering resources and scoping out the different areas, my first shiny appeared, and you already know how that went.
Bruh.
And sadly, this wouldn't be the last time something like this happened. For context, shiny Pokemon in Legends Arceus normally have a 1 in 4096 chance of appearing. Those odds improve to 1 in 2048 once you hit a Pokédex research level of 10, and can drop as low as 1 in 1024 if you perfect a Pokédex entry. Finding shiny Staravia just over an hour in felt insanely lucky, but watching it vanish instantly, that wasn't just painful, it was a brutal reminder that this game and this challenge weren't going to give me anything for free. Despite this early setback, I pushed on, collecting resources and working on Pokédex entries in the Obsidian Fieldlands whenever I could. And after a couple more hours with little to show, I finally got a glimmer of hope. My first mass outbreak. Now, mass outbreaks aren't common. They only start appearing on your map once you've beaten the Diamond Clan Warden Mai on the bridge in the early parts of the game, who basically serves as your first real checkpoint battle in game. On the map, they show up as small icons, and if you're not familiar with them, here's why they are such a big deal. Remember those base shiny odds of 1 in 4096? In an outbreak, those odds drop all the way down to 1 in 158. For a challenge like this, that's something you just can't ignore. So when a Pichu outbreak popped up, I thought a shiny was almost guaranteed. So with hope on the horizon, I marked it on my map and went to check it out. But again, the torment continued. With nothing to show from the outbreak, I shifted focus to farming as many outbreaks as possible. By fast traveling between Jubilife Village and the Obsidian Fieldlands, I forced new outbreaks to occasionally spawn, and whenever they rarely did, I chased them down. Sadly for me though, 3 more hours passed, 7 more outbreaks, and still nothing. My team was just a shiny locked starter, and I was completely stuck from progressing the story. And on one of my early trips back to Jubilife, I ran into a character called Volo from the Ginkgo Guild. He's a traveling merchant who seems way too fascinated with the Pokemon history. At this time, I just laughed it off, but looking back, maybe I should have paid more attention to it. By now, I had almost 6 hours into the playthrough, and outside of climbing the Galaxy ranks and stuffing my satchel with Pokédollars, I had absolutely nothing to show for it. And I couldn't shake off the thought, if only I hadn't failed that shiny Staravia, I'd be so much further into the game by now. Despite the torment so far, I kept pushing on, and I took a break from outbreaks, deciding instead to work on Pokédex research to hopefully boost the shiny odds of the Pokemon I was frequently seeing. It was definitely starting to feel like the game was against me at this point, until finally... Shiny! Shiny! I think it's a Wurmple. It is! Shiny Wurmple! Oh man. Our very first shiny of the run, a shiny Wurmple. After everything that filled Staravia, hours of outbreak hunting, and nearly 7 hours with nothing but our shiny locked starter, this little bug felt like the biggest win in the world. It wasn't strong, it wasn't flashy, but it was mine and the first real teammate of the run. With shiny Wurmple, it meant it could box the non-shiny starter I'd been forced to use from the beginning. From here on out, it was shiny Pokemon only. I spent the next 30 minutes training Wurmple before evolving it into a Beautifly, and just like that, I was finally ready to take on the first real obstacle standing in my way, the Alpha Kricketune on Deer Track Heights. The battle itself wasn't too dramatic. Beautifly fired off a strong style air slash, landing a critical hit, and the Alpha Kricketune that had been terrorizing the area went down in one shot. A little anticlimactic maybe, but it got the job done. With the Alpha Cricketune out of the way, beating it cleared the path forward and earned Mai's approval. This was also where I had my first glimpse at one of Hisui's noble Pokemon, Weirdeer. Seeing it appear in game felt like a big step forward, not just for the story, but for the journey I'd set myself on. Laventon was also able to finally establish a base camp on the Deertrack Heights, giving me a new fast travel point out of Jubilife. And with victory under our belts, we headed back to the village to celebrate, or at least to eat more of Benny's famous potato mochi, the dish he seemed to serve for literally everything in Jubilife. But the celebration didn't last long. Word soon spread about a frenzied Kleavor in the Obsidian Fieldlands. The next morning, I got a full introduction to Adaman, leader of the Diamond Clan, and Arita, leader of the Pearl Clan. Both had arrived in Jubilife after hearing about the Kleavor and were looking at the Galaxy Expedition team for help. Naturally, this is where I came in. Commander Kamedo, the head of the Galaxy team, assigned the investigation to me. And after a quick visit to the Grand Tree Arena in the Obsidian Fieldlands, I had to battle Leon of the Pearl Clan and his Gumi. Beautifly made quick work of it, and that's where I learned Kleavor was normally calmed by offering its favorite food. With this in mind, Professor Lavington hatched an ingenious plan to turn that food into throwable bombs that we could use to calm the frenzy. So basically, the plan was to weaponize Kleavor's lunch. Absolute genius. With the plan in hand, we returned to the Fieldlands and finally unlocked our first ride Pokemon, Weirdeer, and received our first plate along with this. Up until now, everything had been on foot, slow, tedious, and honestly a little bit painful for shiny hunting. But with Weirdeer, everything changed. Suddenly I could cover huge stretches of land in seconds, check spawns way faster, and finally hunt at a pace I needed. It felt like the whole challenge had just opened up. And with that new freedom, there was no way I was going straight to Kleavor. Before tackling the frenzied Noble, I wanted to take advantage of Weirdeer and see if I could track down another shiny to strengthen the team. On one trip between Jubilife and the Fieldlands, I chased down a couple of outbreaks, Cherubi and Staravia, but struck out on both of those. That Staravia one stung extra hard because it felt like it could have been redemption for the one that I missed earlier in the run. But then a Kricketot outbreak appeared. Wasn't expecting much, but this time I finally got lucky. A shiny Kricketot, my second shiny of the run. I evolved it into Cricketune soon after, but with Beautifly already on the team, I was now running two bugs, both weak to rock. Not exactly ideal when my next major fight was against a part rock type noble. So I figured I should probably hunt for a third shiny before taking on Kleavor to balance things out. And looking back, that decision might have been a huge mistake, considering what came next. Although I was finally able to travel quicker around the Obsidian Fieldlands thanks to Weirdeer, still felt my best chance for that third shiny was going to come from an outbreak. So after a few laps around the area, I went back to forcing outbreaks to spawn. And that's when an Eevee outbreak appeared on my map. I couldn't believe it, one of the best possible finds for this run. And I was praying for some luck on this one. So I marked it on my map, ran straight there, and on just the second spawn, this happened. Shiny Eevee! No, we didn't mean to throw that. Come back. Just let it calm down, then we'll get it. Are you joking? Yeah, another heartbreak. Eevee wasn't just a good shiny, it would have been the dream teammate for this run. Losing it on the spot, easily one of the most painful fails so far. Disappointed, I pushed through more outbreaks, still hoping something would finally stick. And after a while, I stumbled onto a Gyarados outbreak at Lake Verity. And that's when the game decided to really troll me. I knew I might not be able to do this outbreak, as I couldn't cross the water yet without Basculegion, but I thought maybe if it was close enough to the shore, I'd have a chance. So I marked it on my map, headed over, and you wouldn't believe it if I didn't have the footage. But right as the outbreak spawned, there it was, a dazzling red Gyarados, one of the most iconic shinies of all time, right in front of me, and completely out of reach. The problem? In Legends Arceus, you can't cross the water until much later when you unlock Basculegion as a ride Pokemon. If you enter the water without it, you simply drown. So the shiny was right there in front of me, but impossible to reach. At least, not without a very weird workaround. See, there's a strange quirk in the game that got a lot of attention after release, and it involves Bibarel. When you throw one into the water, it floats, and with the right technique, you can actually stand upon it. In theory, if you catch 6 Bibarel, you can chain them together across the water, hopping from one to the next like a makeshift bridge. A Bibarel bridge. Ridiculous, absolutely. But this was my life now, a man, a lake, and 6 very confused Bibarel. So I did. I caught my full team of Bibarels, practiced the technique, and then spent the next 7 hours painstakingly trying to cross Lake Verity. At one point, I actually got close enough to hear the shiny jingle from Gyarados, only for the game to hit me with another cruel mechanic. Legends Arceus, whenever a wild Pokemon spots you and the red eye icon appears, any Pokemon you've got out on the field are instantly recalled to their Pokeballs, which meant my Bibarel bridge collapsed. I was dumped straight into the lake and I drowned. Back to square one. I tried again and again. I even attempted a different route, sneaking around from the far side of the lake, but every time Wild Gyarados would spawn and ruin it. After countless attempts, I finally had to accept the truth. This shiny was impossible to claim. I couldn't leave the Obsidian Fieldlands to progress the story because fast traveling back to Jubilife would despawn the shiny permanently, and I couldn't get across the lake without Basculegion, which I wouldn't unlock until much later on in the playthrough. First Eevee, now Gyarados, 2 Dream Shinies gone. One right in front of me. This challenge was breaking me, and I hadn't even reached Kleavor yet. After hours of failed attempts, I knew I had no choice. The shiny red Gyarados was lost to me. If I wanted to keep going, I had to leave the Obsidian Fieldlands and return to Jubilife Village. And once I did, that Gyarados would be gone forever. It was one of the hardest decisions of the run so far, but this challenge wasn't about clinging to the impossible, it was about pressing on, no matter how many shinies slipped away. So with a heavy heart, I left Lake Verity behind and set my sights on my next shiny hunt. Once I fast traveled back to the Obsidian Fieldlands, I mounted up on Weirdeer and just kept moving, roaming the hills, combing through the spawns, checking every corner I could. After the heartbreak of Eevee and the torment of that unreachable Gyarados, I was desperate for a win. But at the same time, every new outbreak now felt like it could be another disappointment waiting to happen. And then another outbreak finally appeared, and this time Paris. Not the flashiest of Pokemon, but at this stage of the run, I didn't care. Anything shiny would be a huge boost for the team. So with cautious optimism, I marked it on my map and headed straight there. I cleared through the spawns, not expecting much, and then finally it happened. A shiny Paris, my 3rd shiny of the run. Shiny Paris! No way! Okay, there we go. Can we get it? We lock it in. Come on. There we go. Paris wasn't going to carry me through boss fights too much, but it didn't need to. After losing both Eevee and Gyarados, this Paris felt like hope, proof that the run wasn't cursed, and that it could finally keep moving forward. So with my team of rock-weak bug types, I headed straight to the Grand Tree Arena to finally face the frenzied Kleavor. After all the build-up, the fight itself honestly felt a little underwhelming. I managed to keep my distance, pelt it with food bombs, and even ended up cheesing the fight a bit by standing behind a tree while Kleavor kept smashing into it. But anticlimactic or not, the important thing was that the Kleavor was calmed and the first noble of this run was down, so we also received the insect plate. Now with the Obsidian Fieldlands finally behind me, I couldn't help but hope the next area, the Crimson Mirelands, would be a little kinder. After everything we've been through so far, I felt like I was due a break. The next morning, just as we were setting out on our next mission, we were introduced to Arceus, another warden from the Diamond Clan. She and Commander Komedo tasked us with investigating the noble Pokemon Ursaluna in the Crimson Mirelands. Once we arrived, we tracked down Calabar of the Pearl Clan at the Celestian Ruins. She held the key to find an Ursaluna. But first we had to deal with a little side quest, chasing down a stolen fragment of the Ruins tablet, courtesy of the Misfortune Sisters. After another quick appearance from Vola, we found the bandits, beat them, and restored the stone. And Calabar finally agreed to help us. Led us straight to Ursaluna, and surprisingly, Ursaluna wasn't the frenzied Pokemon at all. After a quick battle, it gave us the Earth Plate, and actually joined us as another ride Pokemon, this time with the ability to sniff out items buried underground. Not the flashiest ride, but still a big step forward. Back in Jubilife, I was called to meet with Adaman, Komedo, and weirdly Benny, the restaurant owner. A little odd to see him in these strategy meetings, though it does make more sense later in the game. Here we learned the real problem wasn't Ursaluna at all, it was the noble Pokémon Lilligant, who had gone into a frenzy. We learned that Arceus had already prepared the bombs to calm it, but first we had to track it down as she'd gone missing. Using Ursaluna's tracking ability, we sniffed her out, and afterwards climbed to the Brava Arena for the showdown. And the battle against Hisui and Lilligant wasn't too dramatic. Another round of dodging and pelting bombs until the frenzy subsided. This was all helped along by our shiny Beautifly, who was able to close out the battle. And after the quelling, we did manage to claim another plate, this time the meadow plate. Now with that out of the way, it was time to focus on what really mattered, finding new shinies. Between calming Ursaluna and quelling Hisui and Lilligant, I'd been keeping an eye out. At first nothing was showing up, but then luck finally turned. Another mass outbreak spawned, and this time it was Carnivine. Shiny Carnivine! There we go! I think this might be the first time I've ever caught a shiny Carnivine. There we go! Now I've got to admit, it's not one of the best shinies, and honestly, I was really hoping for something other than yet another grass type. Still, progress was progress, and then almost as if the game knew I needed a win, another Staravia outbreak appeared on my map. This was the third outbreak for the same Pokemon it failed right after the start of the run. After 2 more fruitless tries, I was starting to think I'd never see it again. But they say third time's the charm, and sure enough, redemption finally came. Shiny Staravia, my 5th shiny of the run, and at last that early failure was behind me. This was pretty timely as well. By now we'd also earned our 5th Galaxy Star rank, giving us access to wing balls, and luck didn't stop there. On my way back through Jubilife before setting out on the Cobalt Coastlands, another outbreak appeared, this time Haunter in the Crimson Mirelands. I went into this one with very low expectations, especially after the recent Staravia success, but halfway through clearing the horde... Shiny Haunter! Oh, the outbreak is so close to finishing, I didn't think we were going to get one. We've got... Oh, Gengar, shiny Gengar for the run. How good is this going to be? Please just let us get it. Come on. Catch, catch, catch. Come on. Shiny Haunter. The impossible happened again, a shiny Haunter. And with Gengar being one of my all-time favorite Pokemon, this was easily one of the biggest wins for the run so far. And while my team didn't have much type diversity yet, I trusted that the shinies waiting for us in the future would start to balance things out. After all, this was just the beginning, and the journey ahead still had plenty of surprises in store. Those surprises came quickly in the Cobalt Coastlands. Before anything, I had to battle Arita, the leader of the Pearl clan, in a test of strength, which my Kricketoo made quick work of. Not long after, I met Warden Paulina, and here the story took a sad turn. She explained how the old lord of the Coastlands had died saving his son, leaving behind the 2 Hisui and Growlithe by his side. One day the smaller of the 2 would inherit that role, but for now, they were vulnerable. Paulina suggested I investigate Firespit Island, though to do so, I'd first need help from another Diamond Clan warden, Izcan. After trudging back across the island and finding Izcan's hut, he agreed to finally help me, but only if I made Basculegian's favorite food, the catch. I needed a Dusclops to prepare it with Dog Pulse. After tracking one down, the dish was ready, and soon after I finally unlocked Basculegion and got the Splash Pit to boot, I finally had the right Pokemon that let me travel across open water. Felt like a huge breakthrough, especially after all of the torment of that unreachable shiny Gyarados back at Lake Verity. At last, it felt like no shiny was going to be out of reach again. Of course, no peace lasts long in Hisui. The Misfortune Sisters appeared again, this time stealing one of Paulina's Hisui and Growlithes and retreating to Firespit Island. My mission was clear, chase them down with Basculegion and bring the Growlithe back, but before rushing into another noble fight, I had other plans. First, my team desperately needed type diversity if I was going to have any chance of finishing this challenge. And second, I was about to travel to Frankfurt for the first big VGC regionals of the season, so I figured it was the perfect time to pause the story and focus on the shiny hunting. Grinding on the road, collecting new teammates, and coming back stronger to save Growlithe once I returned. Now, Frankfurt is a beautiful city, and as it turns out, a lucky shiny hotspot for me. On the Thursday evening before bed, I was roaming the coastlands when out of nowhere a full odd shiny Tangela appeared. Another grass type, sure, but I knew instantly Tangrowth would be a great fit for the team. Its vibrant green glow made it such a satisfying catch. And the luck didn't stop there. On the Friday morning before rehearsals, I hit the jackpot like I'd never done before. First, I picked up a shiny Octillery from a mass outbreak on the beach, which finally gave me a water type, a huge relief with Firespit Island looming on the horizon, and that golden yellow shine, it instantly stood out from the otherwise dull greens we've been collecting so far. Straight after this, after I was actually looking for a shiny Hisui and Growlithe, I stumbled across a full odds shiny Vulpix. I could hardly believe it at the odds of 1 in 4096, right when I least expected it. And if it wasn't enough to top the morning off, I came upon a shiny matchup. not quite full odds, as its Pokédex research level was 10, so the odds here were 1 in 2048, but still an incredible find. And honestly, I'd never paid much attention to shiny Machoke before, but the green is actually really clean, and another great addition to the team. For the rest of the trip, I shifted focus to collecting satchels to earn merit points. If you're not familiar, merit points are more of a separate in-game currency you get by retrieving satchels dropped by other Galaxy members when they faint to wild Pokemon. And merit points are super useful because you can spend them at a vendor in Jubilife Village for rare evolution items. And I needed those badly. Both Haunter and Machoke evolved using a link cable item, which, unless you're lucky and find one in a space-time distortion, cost a whopping 1,000 merit points each. So shiny hunts took a backseat while I trained up my team and farmed satchels across the region I had access to. And once I got back home from Frankfurt, it was time to cash in all those merit points and evolve the team. Staravia finally became Staraptor, Haunter used the link cable to become Gengar, Machoke bulked up into Machamp, I'd found a Firestone earlier in the run so Vulpix became a beautiful shiny Ninetales, and after teaching Ancient Power, Tangela evolved into Tangrowth. The team was looking really strong going into Firespit Island. It definitely felt bittersweet benching some of those earlier shinies we caught, but for the first time the squad felt like a real team, strong, balanced, and ready for whatever Hisui is about to throw at us. With the team evolved and balanced at last, it was time to head out to Firespit Island. Using Basculegion, we crossed the open sea and tracked down the Misfortune Sisters. Sure enough, they had one of Paulina's Hisui and Growlithe. The battle against all three commenced. Gengar put in a lot of work against Bandit's Kleavor and Coin, but sadly fell to Charm's Rhydon before Artillery came in and made quick work of it and her Gengar. After the battle ended, the other Growlithe, smaller heir of the Lord of the Coastlands, came charging in to protect its brother, and to everyone's surprise, it evolved into Hisui and Arcanine. But before we could celebrate, lightning struck once again. Just like Kleavor and Lilligant before, the new Lord was thrown into a frenzy, and that meant one thing: we had to quell it. This battle was way more intense than the others. The area was small, surrounded by lava, and Arcanine hit like a truck. Dodging Fireball while trying not to roll straight into magma was genuinely tricky. But between the food bombs and the new squad backing me up when I needed breathing room, I finally managed to calm the Lord of Firespit Island. Another noble down, and I obtained the Flame Plate. Finally, the Growlithe was safe, Paulina's faith in me definitely grew, and for the first time I felt like the challenge had turned a corner. From the early heartbreaks of Staravia and Eevee, to now quelling 3 frenzied nobles with a shiny team that actually felt like it had balance, things were finally going my way. But of course, in Hisui, peace never lasts long. My next destination was the Coronet Highlands, and that's where things were about to get a whole lot stranger. Back at the village, the celebrations were short-lived, just another round of Benny's famous potato mochi before I was called into Komedo's office the next morning. Waiting there was Adaman of the Diamond Clan, who explained another noble had gone into a frenzy, this time Hisui and Electrode in the Coronet Highlands, and as usual, it was on me to deal with it. Before heading out, I was properly introduced to a mysterious stranger I'd glimpsed earlier. Ingo, like me, had fallen from the sky, though his memories of Hal were gone. Despite that, he became a huge help in the Highlands, guiding me through the dangerous cliffs and helping me unlock Sneasler, the ride Pokemon that finally let me scale steep mountainsides, a massive upgrade for shiny hunting in particular. But not everything in the Highlands was an upgrade. This was also where I had the misfortune of meeting Melly, Hisui and Electrode's warden, Diamond Clan's resident headache, and possibly one of the most irritating characters in the entire game. Naturally, I had to battle him before moving forward, and honestly, it was a tough 3-on-1 battle. His team managed to take down both my Ninetales and Gengar before Machamp finally clutched it out. Victory secured, but my patience for Melly was already worn thin. Still, I wasn't running into Electrode just yet. With some tough dragon types coming later in the run, I knew I needed a fairy type on the team. One of my personal favorites, Clefable, could be found right here in the Highlands. So I set my sights on the Fabled Spring, where Clefairy spawned at night. My plan was simple: perfect the Pokédex entry, boost the shiny odds, and hunt until one sparkled. Perfecting Clefairy's dex was already shaping up to be a nightmare. Catching, battling, feeding, evolving, and then the infamous do Clefairy dance under the full moon research task. And here's the kicker: Legends Arceus actually has moon phases. 8 different ones, which cycle every 2 in-game days. That means a full cycle of the moon takes 16 in-game days, which, if you don't know the trick, can feel like forever. Luckily, at camp, you can skip nights to fast forward, but still, having to scientifically prove Clefairy like the moon felt a little over the top. And right in the middle of this grind, between fast traveling between Jubilife and the Coronet Highlands, I got a much needed boost. On the way back to Jubilife Village, a Pichu outbreak appeared in the Obsidian Fieldlands. And just like that, a shiny Pichu joined the squad. Totally unplanned, but the timing couldn't have been better. Pichu shiny isn't the most obvious, but I definitely like the subtlety, and grabbing one mid-grind gave me the perfect moral boost to keep pushing through on Clefairy's research tasks. Another one of those tasks required me to evolve Clefairy 3 times. I'd already found one moonstone earlier, but I still needed 2 more. So I took full use of Ursaluna to dig one up in the Crimson Mirelands, and for the last one I ended up farming more merit points from lost satchels. And it was during one of those runs that something strange happened. I stumbled across a Luxray outbreak in the Obsidian Fieldlands and thought, why not, let's check it out. But after a few minutes I realized this outbreak wasn't worth the hassle. The thing with Luxray is it gets enraged very quickly and it's also super strong. So wanting to avoid getting fainted and losing a bunch of Pokemon along the way, I bailed and went back to satchel hunting. But then, right after leaving the outbreak, while roaming the cliffs near Lake Verity, unbelievable, I had 0 luck in the outbreak itself, despite the boosted odds. But just steps away, a random full odds Luxray appeared at 1 in 4096. Absolute madness. And honestly, what a shiny to find out of nowhere, a powerhouse I knew would come in clutch for those tougher battles still to come. Catching that while Luxray was insane, but I still had business to finish. With the moonstones finally collected, I evolved the extra Clefairy I needed and wrapped up its research task, perfecting the Pokédex entry and giving myself the best possible shiny odds moving forward. Now you're probably expecting me to say that perfecting the Pokédex research wasn't worth it, and I spent hours grinding only to get nothing. But this time the story had a twist. The grind actually paid off, as just about an hour after perfecting its Pokédex research, on another trip to the Fabled Spring, it happened. A shiny Clefairy, which quickly became a shiny Clefable. Not only was it one of my personal favorite Pokemon finally joining the team, but it gave me a fairy type coverage I knew I'd need for those dragon types ahead. This wasn't just another shiny catch, this was a definite turning point. With shiny Clefable now on the team, I finally felt ready for the frenzied noble Electrode. And honestly, it wasn't the hardest fight. Most of it was just dodging Electrode's rolling attacks until it burnt itself out, and then Gengar stepped in and one-shot it with Venoshock. Another noble quelled, and with it, the Zap Plate in hand. Back in Jubilife, the routine continued. Report to Komedo, another round of Benny's Potato Mochi, and call it a night. But the next morning, the cycle broke. Arita and Adaman arrived, warning that our next mission would take us to the Alabaster Icelands to deal with the final noble, Hisui and Avalugg. Komedo approved, but reminded me yet again that I was still an outsider and would have to keep proving myself. At this point, I'd quelled 4 raging gods, saved half of Hisui, and eaten my body weight in mochi. What more did he want? In the Icelands, we met Garrick, the Pearl Clan Warden, an intense guy who does his squats mid-conversation, which is both impressive and very distracting. Then came Sabi, the Warden of Hisui and Bravery. Unlike most others, she didn't just hand over her noble's aid. Instead, she tested me with a chase across the snowy peaks. That trial ended at the Snowpoint Temple, where I faced her Magmortar, Electivire, and Rhyperior in a brutal 3-on-1 battle. My team was battered, but somehow we pulled through with Ninetales landing the final blow. One more battle with Hisui and Bravery later, and I finally had the ability to fly. Flying on Bravery was a game changer. Covering ground had never been faster, and with more encounters came more chances for shinies, which was perfect because I wanted one more major addition before tackling Avalugg, Mamoswine. Its ice and ground typing would be huge against the battles I knew were coming. Swinub and Paloswine spawned all around the Icelands camp, so I set my sights on perfecting Swinub's Pokédex entry, just like with Clefairy. It was going to be a grind, catch 25, battle them, evolve them, feed them, tick every box. After hours of work, I was down to one final special research task. But when I tried to unlock it, I hit a wall. It required progress tied to Avalugg's story. I had no choice just to push ahead. So I battled Avalugg, a massive ice-covered monster hurling entire glaciers my way. The fight was chaotic, dangerous, but eventually I managed to quell it and claim the Icicle Plate. Victory, or so I thought. The very next morning after traveling back to Jubilife Village, disaster struck. The rift in the sky had expanded, turning the heavens blood red. And instead of rallying behind me, Komedo turned on me. He declared that I was the cause of the chaos, the reason for the rift, and ordered my exile from Jubilife Village. Just like that, After everything I'd done, I was cast out. No allies, no home, no way back. Rita and Adamant both refused to intervene, afraid of sparking war between their clans and the Galaxy team. It felt like rock bottom. But when all hope seemed gone, an old friend appeared. Volor, the traveling merchant. Once again, he offered help, this time taking me to meet a new character, Koita, a mysterious woman who revealed the truth of the red chain, a relic needed to mend the rift. To forge it, she advised we needed to visit the 3 lakes of Hisui to face the Guardians, Mesprit, Exile, and Uxie. With the reader's help, we completed each trial, gathered the fragments, and reforged the red chain. For the first time since Exile, I had a little hope. But there was a catch. Commander Komedo had already led a group up Mount Coronet to deal with the rift himself. If I wanted to set things right, I'd have to follow him. Before I could climb the mountain though, I had unfinished business in the Icelands, but unfortunately I was unable to perfect Swinub's Pokédex entry, thanks to this story lockout. All of that time wasted, it kinda stung. But instead of giving up, I shifted my focus to Piloswine, whose entry had no hidden tasks. With a static alpha nearby, I set about catching and training until the dex entry was perfected. Then came the grind, flying loops on bravery between Jubilife and the Icelands, checking spawns over and over again. Hours passed with no luck, and hope started slipping. Then fate threw me a curveball. While fast traveling, I spotted a Gyarados outbreak back at Lake Verity, the very same spot where the shiny red Gyarados had mocked me at the start of this journey. This time though, I had Basculegion. No tricks, no Bibarel bridges, I could reach it. At first nothing, but after knocking out a few Gyarados, the sparkle finally appeared. Shiny Gyarados! There we go! I can't believe it. It's the same outbreak we had that nightmare with earlier. Come on, let's get it. Come on. Seeing the levels of them now, I don't actually think we would have even been able to catch it earlier. So this is perfect. Shiny Gyarados. Here we go. What a shiny to get. A shiny red Gyarados. Redemption at last. This felt like destiny. Octillery had been incredible, but deep down, I think the run was always meant to end with Gyarados as my water type. One of the most iconic shinies in Pokemon history. Finally mine. And that luck didn't stop there. Back in the Icelands, after countless loops, I checked the Alpha Piloswine spawn near the camp, and this happened. The Piloswine! The Alpha Piloswine! I cannot... No way. No way. Out of all the Piloswine. Come on. Let's get it. There we go. It looks so good. Looks so good. I can't believe we got the Alpha out of every Piloswine in this area. Absolute madness. Amazing. Probably one of the best shinies we've got of the run so far. There we go. A shiny Alpha Piloswine. After all the grind, all the wasted effort on Swinub, this was the payoff. I evolved it, and with that, the team felt complete for the first time. I was truly ready to face the endgame. It was tough deciding on my final 6 team members. So many shinies we caught along the way could have fit in great. These 6 were the ones I settled on, and together they looked incredible. Shiny Alpha Mamoswine, Tangrowth, Gengar, Gyarados, Ninetales, and Clefable. A team that felt ready for anything. Before heading to the summit of Mount Coronet, I wanted to make sure we were truly prepared. So I did a little, okay, maybe a lot of training. One of the quickest ways to level grind in Legends Arceus is by farming the Alpha Blissey that spawns in the northeast area of the Obsidian Fieldlands. Each one drops massive experience and level up candies, and after about an hour of farming, my team was stacked. Looking back, I may have gone a little overboard, but at the time, I knew the toughest challenges of the run were still to come. With my team trained and the red chain in hand, there was only one place left to go, the summit of Mount Coronet. The rift in the sky was tearing Hisui apart, and Commander Komedo had already marched ahead with the Galaxy team to fix things himself. If I'd wanted to set things right to save the region I'd grown to love, I'd have to confront him and whatever awaited beyond. But before I could reach him, I was stopped in my tracks by Benny. Yes, Benny, the mochi guy. Turns out he wasn't just a chef serving up endless potato mochi, he was Komedo's right-hand man, and he'd been ordered to stop me once and for all. I'll admit I wasn't ready for this twist. After all the times I'd eaten his cooking, suddenly I had to battle him, and his full team of evolved Pokemon pulled no punches. Gengar dealt with Miss Magias before falling to a strong style attack from Gardevoir, but Gyarados came in for the revenge KO. From there, Gyarados made easy work of Benny's remaining flying weak Pokemon in Gallade and Sneasler. It was a tough fight, but when it was over, I felt my shiny team was finally ready for whatever came next. And at last I reached Commander Komedo at the summit. He wasted no time, accusing me again of causing the rift and branding me the root of all Hisui's problems. Words weren't enough anymore, it was time for the battle. This fight carried real weight. Komedo's team was no joke, and for a moment it felt like he might actually stop me. Mamoswine should have made easy work of the Hisuian bravery, but 2 icicle crashes missed in a row, and suddenly the fight got way more stressful than I'd hoped. Still, Mamoswine powered through Snorlax and then Golem before Komedo's Clefable stepped in. I switched to my own Clefable, matching Calm Minds, until my shiny one finally prevailed. With his defeat, Komedo finally conceded, and it was time to climb to the very summit. Here, Arita suddenly receives a telepathic message from what she and Adaman believe is Almighty Sinnoh. Komedo passes me some Ultra Balls, the temple shakes, and a portal tears open. Out steps Palkia. The red chain activates, but in a flash, Palkia shatters it into pieces. The only way forward was to fight. Clefable led the charge, Fairy versus Dragon. It felt like such a perfect Pokemon to have right in this moment. It weakened it enough for me to then throw an Ultra Ball, and finally I caught it. But before we could even process that, another portal ripped open, and this time Dialga emerged, roaring with even more fury. Komedo called everyone to retreat so that we could regroup. And back at camp, he finally apologized, admitting he was wrong about me. Arita received another message, now clearly from Palkia, and Levinson pieced together another desperate plan. Craft a special Pokeball from the red chain fragments that remained, the Origin Ball. The problem was that we didn't have enough ore. With Lian's help though, I tracked him down in the Highlands, returned it to Laventon, and the Origin Ball was forged. Armed with this final tool, we returned to the temple. On the way we bumped into Volo, who once again offered encouragement and help. Funny how he always seemed to be nearby when things got serious. At the summit, Dialga transformed into its origin form, unleashing meteor showers and shockwaves across the arena. It looked terrifying, but the plan was clear. I kept my distance, dodged the blasts, created openings with my team, and when the moment finally came, I used the Origin Ball. Hit, capture, and just like that, the rift calmed and the sky over Hisui finally began to heal. With both legends in hand and peace restored, it felt like the end. The story was finished. But anyone who knows Legends Arceus knows that's not quite how this tale ends. In the post-game, I was tasked with collecting the remaining plates across Hisui. Volo, ever the friendly merchant, offered to help, and Koita pointed us in the right directions. We picked up the fist plate at Prelude Beach after a rematch with Komedo. Much cleaner this time, Gyarados and Mamoswine did massive work. Tracked down the Lake Trio for the Draco plate, faced Cresselia for the Dread plate, and fought off Heatran in Firespit Island for the Iron plate, and after catching Regigigas, secured the Blank plate. The catch rates on these legendaries felt suspiciously generous. Or maybe I was just very lucky, because the first Ultra Ball I used on each one of them managed to catch them. The final plate, a bit ridiculous. Koita ends up asking us to bring her 3 logs of wood. After gods, galaxies, and powerful legendary dragons, apparently timber was the missing link. Sure, why not? So we brought her the 3 logs, Koita fashioned them into the pixie plate, and that was the last piece. Volo's reaction here was odd. He snapped for a moment, admitting that this was the one plate he could never find. I brushed it off, but it was the first crack in the mask. He asked me to meet him at the Sacred Plaza in the Highlands, where he launched into a speech about this being the closest plate in Hisui to the heavens, and how the rune statue in front of us once depicted a Pokemon equal to Dialga and Palkia, a being that was banished. And so we climbed to the Temple of Sinnoh. And that's where the truth came out. Volo revealed his real goal. Use the plates to summon Arceus. All along he'd been nudging me forward, pretending to help while chasing God. The friendly merchant I trusted was the villain of this whole story. This was the battle I trained for. Volo opened with Spiritomb, and Clefable, perfect for this matchup, set up a Calm Mind before dropping it with a Moonblast. Volo's Garchomp then charged in and flattened Clefable with back-to-back Iron Heads. But Mamoswine answered with a huge Icicle Crash. Lucario then switched in. I switched to Gyarados, soaked a Barrage, set up a Focus Energy, and then landed a critical hit Hydro Pump. Gyarados then fell to Hisui and Arcanine's Rock Slide. So Mamoswine once again returned to the field and deleted it with a huge high horsepower. Togekiss, Volo's last standing Pokemon, couldn't withstand the Icicle Crash onslaught either, and Volo's team was finally vanquished. I thought at this point it was over, but then out of nowhere, Volo summoned the banished one, Giratina. What followed was the hardest fight in the game. Kleavor re-entered the battle after using a max revive, traded Calm Minds and Draining Kisses into endless Shadow Force loops, and finally brought Giratina down, only for it to rise once again in its origin form. With Kleavor spent, my best dragon check was gone. It came down to the Ice Age, shiny Alpha Mamoswine. 2 clean Icicle Crashes back to back later, and the banished legendary finally fell. When the dust settled, I received the Spooky Plate and the Azure Flute, had to endure another long spiel from Volo, but the run was now complete. Looking back, I probably overleveled my team just a touch. The very end was a bit of a stomp, but this shiny only playthrough had everything: heartbreaking fails, clutch catches, and perfect redemptions. Staravia and Gyarados both came full circle. Alpha Mamoswine earned its crown, and the team of 6 looked phenomenal doing it. So this is my run with how I complete Pokemon Legends Arceus using only shiny Pokemon. If you want more shiny only runs on the channel, tell me which game next, and drop your most painful fail or proudest shiny catch in the comments. I'll try and feature a few on the next video. Thanks for watching everyone, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.